A career that was cut a little short due to injuries, Johan Santana had a prime up there with anyone, winning multiple Cy Youngs and dominating the league in the late 2000s, in a prime so great that it results in Hall of Fame consideration for just a few years alone. So let's look at that prime and his Hall of Fame case.
Totally sports-esque. Majorly.
Johan Santana was discovered in 1994, 15 years old, by an Astro scout in Venezuela, and it took some time to decide if he was better fit as a pitcher or an outfielder. But he was converted to a pitcher because of how hard he threw, which Santana did not like initially, but after convincing, it would be the best route. He would spend 97 through 99 in the Astro system and would post ERAs of 7.36, 4.73, and 4.66. And after 99, he was left unprotected by the Astros and therefore eligible for the Rule 5 draft, something that Andres Reiner, the scout who discovered him, protested, but he could not convince the team. The Twins had the first pick in the draft, and the Florida Marlins had the second. And in a prearranged deal, the Twins would draft Jared Camp, and the Marlins would draft Santana. They would then exchange the players, with the Twins receiving $50,000 to cover the pick. And he would end up being one of the best Rule 5 picks of all time, along with the likes of R.A. Dickey, Josh Hamilton, Jose Bautista, and even Roberto Clemente. Despite never playing past Single-A, Santana debuted with the Twins in April of 2000 out of the bullpen, making his first career start on April 7th, where he gave up 1 over 5. But his next 2 starts would see him give up 13 earned runs over 6.2 innings. And aside from 2 starts in late September, he spent the rest of the season out of the bullpen, pitching 86 innings with a 6.49 ERA. And 2001 wasn't much different, not looking good in his few starts, while missing almost the last 3 months with a 4.74 ERA in 43.2 innings. And this led to him starting 2002 in the minors, where he had one goal, which was to develop a changeup to complement his fastball. He made 10 starts in the minors, and according to pitching coach Bobby Cuellar, he threw at least one changeup to every batter he faced, even sometimes throwing 20 in a row. Either way, it would change everything for him as he came back up in May, being used as both a starter and a reliever, compiling a 2.99 ERA in 108.1 innings. Striking out 137, his K per 9 went from 5.8 to 11.4. The only concern still was his control, as he led the league with 15 wild pitches, while his walks per 9 was over 4. But Santana looked his best that year at the end when he went back to the bullpen, giving up 0 runs in 7 appearances in 11.2 innings and never walking more than 1 in those appearances. So it became clear that if he was able to control his pitches, he could go far. With how good he looked out of the bullpen, it's no surprise that is where he began the year, making an occasional start as he appeared in 30 games through July 5th, compiling an ERA of 2.86 in 66 innings, and the Twins would decide to put him back in the rotation. And though he had a few rough starts at the end of July, his prime really began in August. He would make 11 starts and went 8-0 with a 2.51 ERA in 68 innings with 70 strikeouts. And over the year, he would post a 3.07 ERA in 158.1 innings, going 12-3, striking out 169 for 9.6 K per 9, and more notably, lowering his walks per 9 to 2.7, as he received Cy Young votes for the first time, as he finished 7th. And this led him to being the Game 1 starter for the ALDS against the Yankees. He only pitched 4 innings, but he did not give up any runs, as the Twins got a rare playoff victory over the Yankees. He would then pitch in Game 4, which was an elimination game, and it did not go near as well, giving up 6 runs in 3.2 innings, as he would take the loss. But Santana and the Twins still had a lot to look forward to, but no one could have imagined what was starting for Santana. While his prime was beginning, 2004 did not start out well. His ERA climbed to 5.61 at the end of May, but after every start after except one, his ERA would go down. It was down to 3.89 by the All-Star break after striking out at least 10, with less than 3 earned in 5 of his 6 starts before the break. But it was too late to make the All-Star game for the first time. However, what he did in the second half was historic. Dating back to his June 9th start, his next 10 would see him give up 4 hits or fewer, the first to do that since 1961. In the second half, he would start 15 games, pitch 104.1 innings with a 1.21 ERA and an 11.13 K per 9, along with his record-breaking 13-0 record. And for the season, that brought his numbers to 228 innings pitched with a 2.61 ERA, an 8.7 WAR, with 265 strikeouts, which topped Burt Blyleven in 1973 for the Twins record, leading the league in WAR, ERA, strikeouts, ERA+, FIP, WHIP, and K per 9, finishing 1 win behind Curt Schilling, which would have given him the Triple Crown. But either way, that would result in him receiving all 28 first-place votes as he would win the Cy Young. A second half so dominant that his ERA fell by over half what it was at the end of May, and after receiving little All-Star consideration, he was by far and away the best in the second half. And for the second straight year, he was the Game 1 starter against the Yankees, And for the second straight year, the Twins won that game. Only this time he went 7 innings, and despite giving up 9 hits, he did not give up a run, and he was a winning pitcher. And again, he pitched Game 4, giving up 1 over 5, but again, the Yankees would beat the Twins in 4, which was the third of a record-breaking 18 straight playoff losses. Still a promising future with Santana, and a future Hall of Famer behind the plate. Santana's opening day start in 2005 was just his second non-quality start dating back to his last 23, but he went right back to form in his next start, and would end up making his first All-Star game even though his 3.98 ERA was higher than the previous year. But again, he was incredible in the second half, making 15 starts, throwing 107.1 innings with a 1.59 ERA, along with 95 strikeouts and a 9-2 record. And for the year, that brought his numbers to a 2.87 ERA, over 231.2 innings, with a 7.2 BWAR and 238 strikeouts, leading in basically all the same categories as last year, except for ERA by .01, and that includes WAR, strikeouts, and FIP. And that would result in just a third-place finish for the Cy Young, which clearly was a mistake. The only category Bartolo Colon beats him in is wins. Bartolo's 3.48 ERA is the 4th highest ever for a Cy Young winner, while Santana beats his strikeout totals by 81. And considering the Twins regress in 183 games while finishing 24th in runs scored, Santana's 16-7 record is impressive enough. But in this time, voters still emphasize wins, which gave Bartolo the Cy Young. The reason this is so important is for what would happen later in Santana's career. Santana would continue his dominance in 2006 while the Twins came back better. His ERA was under 3 at the All-Star break for the first time, as he made the All-Star game for the second time. And like he had the previous 2 years, he was great down the stretch. A second half with a 10-1 record, a 2.54 ERA, and 107 strikeouts in 102.2 innings. And for the year, that brought his numbers to a 2.77 ERA over 233.2 innings, which was the most in the league, with a 7.6 WAR, 245 strikeouts, and 19 wins. Again leading in the same categories, and most notably, those 19 wins were the most, which gave him the pitching triple crown he just missed out on before. And playing on the playoff Twins, this time Santana was too good to ignore, as unanimously won the Cy Young for the second time, the 14th to win 2 Cy Youngs, and the 5th to win 2 unanimously, with Roger Clemens, Pedro Martinez, Greg Maddux, and Sandy Koufax, leading in strikeouts for those 3 years, along with WAR, ERA+, FIP, and WHIP, while leading in ERA twice. And for the third time in 4 years, he was the Twins' Game 1 starter in the playoffs, this time going against the A's, and he would pitch 8 innings, striking out 2, and giving up 2 earned runs, but it was not enough. As the A's won Game 1, then they would win the next 2. And then things moved to 2007, where Santana again got off to a below-average start, but by the All-Star break, his ERA was under 3 again, as he made the All-Star game for the 3rd straight year. And unlike the previous 3 years, he actually wasn't as good in the second half, posting a 4.04 ERA in 98 innings, though he struck out 110, as the Twins did not make the playoffs, with his final start of the season only lasting 3 innings because of rain, which ended a streak of 123 games where he pitched 5 innings or more, the 3rd longest in the previous 25 years. A year where he had his highest ERA at 3.33 as a full-time starter, a big part of that coming from the 33 home runs he gave up, which was the most in the league. But he still had a higher K/9 in the previous 2 years, along with having the best whip in the league, winning a Gold Glove, and finishing 5th in Cy Young voting. Not as strong as previous years, but still a great year. And in the offseason, Santana would be traded to the New York Mets for Carlos Gomez, Philip Humber, Julius Guerra, and Kevin Mulvey, signing a 6-year, $137 million contract with the team after, and he would be worth the money that year. Being an All-Star snub 1 month after earning his 100th career victory, Santana was a workhorse that kept the Mets in the race down the stretch, pitching 107.2 innings in the second half over 15 starts, going 8-0 with 92 strikeouts and a 2.17 ERA, including 3 complete games. One of those his final game of the season, which was a shutout, 1 game after throwing 125 pitches in an 8-inning performance, finishing the season with the most innings in the league and his career at 234.1, with a career-best 2.53 ERA and 206 strikeouts, the most in Mets history by a left-handed pitcher. Without a dominant year by Tim Lincecum, he very well could have won the Cy Young in both leagues. The Mets did not make the playoffs, and it was revealed that Santana had been pitching his final starts with a torn meniscus in his left knee, receiving surgery in October. And unfortunately, injuries would play a part of the later stage of his career. He was back for opening day, and he had an ERA under 2 after May. And though he had some struggles in June, he still made the All-Star team for the 4th time. And after August 20th, He had a 3.13 ERA with 146 strikeouts and 166.2 innings. But his season came to an end there, as he underwent arthroscopic surgery to remove bone chips in his left elbow. And after another strong season in 2010, where he started 29 games with 199 innings, posting a 2.98 ERA with the most complete games of his career at 4, his season ended after his first start in September, as he would undergo surgery to repair a torn anterior capsule in his left shoulder, an injury that caused him to miss all of 2011. And after rehab, he was the Mets' opening day starter in 2012. And after a few ups and downs, he would throw a complete game shutout on May 26 against the Padres, and that would lead him into his June 1st start. Though Santana walked a few and maybe got a beneficial call, after great catches by Mike Baxter, Santana went to the 9th with no hits allowed against the defending World Series champion Cardinals. And on his 134th pitch, the most in his career, he got his 8th strikeout and threw the first no-hitter in Mets history, and is still the only solo no-hitter in Mets history, earning Player of the Week and keys to the city for his efforts. And after the no-hitter, he went through some struggles and went on a 15-day DL in July after spraining his ankle. And 2 starts after, he went back on the DL for the rest of the season with inflammation in his lower back, finishing the year with a 4.85 ERA in 117 innings. He would tear his shoulder capsule again during early 2013, and he would miss the entire season, the Mets buying out his option for 2014, thus making him a free agent. He would sign minor league contracts with the Orioles and Blue Jays, but the injuries this time were too much to overcome, and he would not return to the majors, with 2012 being his final season. Santana finished his 12th-season career, of which 8 were spent as a full-time starter, pitching 2,025.2 innings in 360 appearances, posting a 3.2 ERA with 1,988 strikeouts for an 8.8 K per nine, while compiling a B-WAR of 51.1. A great career, with the only mark being his lack of longevity with the injuries, but a peak so dominant that alone puts him in Hall of Fame talks. Going back to the 2005 Cy Young, which he should have won, that would have been 3 straight Cy Youngs. The only pitchers with 3 Cy Youngs on the Hall of Fame are Roger Clemens, Clayton Kershaw, Max Scherzer, and Justin Verlander, those last 3 being first ballot once they retire. And regardless of the awards, Santana was clearly a dominant pitcher of his time. From 2002 to 2010, Santana compiled an ERA plus of 150, the best in the time with Roy Halladay behind him at 147, and Roy Oswalt third at 133, with his 50.5 B-WAR in the time only being bested by Halladay, with his 2.9 ERA besting Halladay by .14. And that includes 2 years when he was in the bullpen, and 2 when he missed the end of the season with injuries, with Halladay of course going on to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And going by his real peak from 2004 to 2008, where he won 2 Cy Youngs and finished top 5 in voting each year, of pitchers who threw at least 1,000 innings, he has an ERA 0.4 points lower than Roy Oswalt, the only pitcher to record 1,000 strikeouts, and he is tied with Roy Oswalt for the most wins, which gives him a 4-year pitching triple crown, while he also threw the most innings, had the best ERA+, WHIP, FIP, and K per nine, by far the best pitcher of the last half of the decade. And a pitcher he's often compared to is Sandy Koufax, 2 left-handed pitchers who had incredible peaks, but their careers were cut short due to injury. And looking at the comparisons, Santana isn't too far behind or ahead in a few categories, though you had to mention the eras when comparing. Koufax pitching in a time where pitchers threw a lot, which in part led to his injuries. But it's not like Santana didn't pitch plenty. Already mentioned that he threw the most innings during his 5-year peak, and going by their 5-year peaks, obviously Santana doesn't quite reach the peak of Koufax. But again, these are different eras with the higher mounds, and also Koufax was so far ahead of the other pitchers of his time. This isn't to say Santana had a better peak, which he didn't, just that if there's a player from this century similar, it's Johan Santana, with a short peak that was dominant and ended because of injuries. And looking at Jaws, Santana ranks all the way 82nd for starting pitchers. And for reference, Koufax ranks 96th. The impressive part coming from the fact that most of the pitchers around him pitched between 600 to 2,000 more innings than him. But when you look at 7-year peaks with adjustments made to a 250 innings pitched per season scale to account for the dead ball era pitchers who pitch a ton, his peak ranks 25th, with every pitcher ahead of him in the Hall of Fame except for 7, with 4 of those still playing, 2 having off-field issues, and Wes Ferrell, who probably should be in, with a number of Hall of Famers behind him in terms of adjusted peaks. But ultimately, the Hall of Fame values full careers over peaks, and in Santana's case, his peak was almost his whole career, which is why he only received 2.4% of the vote in his first ballot, which kept him off future ballots. Very unfortunate he couldn't have just a few more average seasons, because that alone would at a minimum give him much more consideration. And again, winning that 3rd Cy Young probably changes everything as well. And what is the ultimate case of a Hall of Fame peak, but a full career that falls a little short in those typical Hall of Fame numbers. But Santana is one that can have perceptions change as time goes on. If peaks become more valuable and his workload continues to be higher than many today, it wouldn't be far-fetched to see him voted in by a committee, especially if the committee becomes players and voters who were there for his peak. It wasn't a very long career, but Johan Santana's time as a starting pitcher is up there with some of the all-time greats, winning multiple Cy Youngs while going on to be the best pitcher of the late 2000s. Hopefully you liked this video, and if so, please consider liking and subscribing for new videos every week. Thank you.